Hey, everybody. So it is day 7 of the governor's order, stay-at-home order. Truthfully, it feels like a lot longer than that. So what's unfolded this week? What have we learned? Where are we going from here? I'm going to be really honest. I don't know how long this is going to take. And there seems to be a lot of conflicting data out there from various supposedly reliable sources. So it makes it even more confusing to know really where we're at with this and when it's going to be over. All right, so let's see what's happening. This is just a few hours ago in New York.
Hi there, Sarah. Yeah, the Comfort Now is just pulling into dock here in Midtown Manhattan. It is coming in under the guidance of 75 professional mariners and more than 1,000 Navy medical personnel on board, as well as some civilian volunteers.
So, as we can see, New York is obviously being hit really hard by this. And of course, we wish them a swift recovery, and anyone who's suffering from this to just be better fast and through this. So, from seeing things like this, it seems like the situation is escalating because more action is being taken, bigger actions. And as we know today, the president extended an effort to stop the spread until April 30th. All right, let's see what he has to say about that.
Be worse than declaring victory before the victory is won. Therefore, we will be extending our guidelines to April 30th to slow the spread.
So as you can see, there's a lot happening on this, and something that really frustrates me a lot, there is so much data coming out from different sources out there. And when I sit down and look at the data myself, to study the information, to make sense out of what's happening, frankly, I'm a bit confused. It's absolutely terrible that this is happening. A virus like this, which I heard word about today, had apparently, again, this is another piece of conflicting information, but apparently this virus had been known about for a considerable amount of time, years. But I'm not here, and I'm not the source of that information. It's only information that it's some of the information I'm coming across that adds a tremendous amount of confusion to this. And I would venture to say that most people out there that are watching and listening and in their homes are also caught up in the confusion of what's happening. There really isn't a better way to describe it for me than chaos. Because we have an economy that's basically stopping, meaning people are stopping production. A lot of people are stopping the purchase of things, with the exception of bare necessities. That stops the flow of money in the country, which is a major part of the growth and the movement of the country as a whole. So there's this fear and chaoticness happening. And I know it's affecting everybody to a more or less degree in some way. Of course, some people are less concerned and some people are really concerned about this. So all in all, it really creates somewhat of a destabilization of the country. And that trickles down into the household, individuals, cities, towns, states, all the way down to the family level. So this is a big problem. And I'm one of those people that continues to service the clients that I have. Fortunately, I'm in a position where I can, for the most part, work remotely. But this is also causing a problem for them. So anyway, this affects us all in very different ways. And it's particularly hard to predict where this is going based on what's happening every day and some of the numbers that are being put out there. And then we have Dr. Fauci coming in and basically saying...
Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, saying the U.S. could see at least 1 million cases and potentially as many as 200,000 deaths. So,
it goes without saying, but those are some very serious numbers. And I would classify that as very alarming information. And it doesn't make it easier for most families and people that are out there in the United States to think that this is going to go away anytime soon. But I will say, in the town of McMinnville, Oregon, which is where I'm located, I would, for the most part, say most of the residents here are doing an amazing job at just going out to get what they need and really making an effort to tame this so that it doesn't have to continue on any longer than absolutely necessary. So we can all just get back to our normal life. Let's see what Dr. Birx has to say.
Deborah Birx from the White House Coronavirus Task Force says they're studying New York closely.
What I wanted to be very clear on is every metro area should assume that they could have an outbreak equivalent to New York and do everything.
So, that's something to consider. Metro areas, major cities, major populated spaces could easily cause the same kind of thing. So everyone doing what they're doing is such an amazing job to stay home. And the very minimum, go only where you need to go for your basic essentials and survival. For example, even us, we've had to make some grocery store runs this week because there were specific things that we needed. But we are very cautious about, washing hands, keeping distance from others, all the basic things that are being recommended during this. The big question that I pose to myself on this is, what's this going to look like when it's over? Because right now, we don't exactly know how long this is going to draw out. We do know that specific states are starting to really monitor traffic incoming, outgoing, to prevent anything coming in from the so-called hot zones, the areas where this might be most, if somebody's traveling from one of those areas. So that's a very smart thing to do. Anyway, I think there's a lot of measures and a lot of action being taken that do help the situation. On the other side of it, there's seeming to be a whole other argument that this disease isn't near as deadly as many other diseases that we face every year. But I think it's more in the unknown, and because it's new is really where the concern is. And are there potential other effects to this disease that have yet to be uncovered that may present themselves in the future? I think there's a lot of information we just don't know. So I think this reporter has some good news. Let's see what she has to say.
Good news for testing. The FDA has authorized a new coronavirus test that can deliver results in as little as 15 minutes. And
so that's pretty good to know, because I think part of this whole thing is that knowing where it is, who has it, and if the faster you can test for it, the better it can be monitored and known, and those people can just be isolated until they recover. Anyway, again, I hear one piece of information from here, and then I read something or hear something somewhere else from what's supposed to be a reliable news source, and then we end up getting all kinds of information that seems like conflicting, and it creates some confusion. So if you are out there and you are feeling confused, just know that the discoordination between the news networks and any other public speakers that are making announcements about this can definitely contribute and add to the confusion, and you're not alone in this chaotic environment that we're in right now trying to sort this thing out. I think for me, the real questions I have is, okay, so now there's tests that are available, but now that the tests are available faster, that means that more cases are naturally going to be reported. So the numbers are going to naturally accelerate, which gives the impression that a lot more people are getting sick when maybe tons of people already had it. Many people already got over it and no one ever knew they even had it and just thought it was a cold or a flu or something. So it's just interesting to me how we can take numbers like this and, see it's, 155,705 confirmed cases in the U.S. That's a lot. That's a big number. And then when we look at the recovered and then the deaths, that's like 50-50. See, the way these numbers make things look, it's really catastrophic looking. But then as you dig deeper into the information and the numbers, the fatality rates look much different than what we're seeing here, which does look like a 50% based on recovered versus deaths. So you probably get where I'm coming from by now. There's just a lot of information, the way it's presented, the way it's interpreted, and all the different sources the data's coming from. It's really easy to get caught up and confused. So Again, you're not alone. And I consider it chaotic when this happens because us citizens of the U.S., many of us don't feel that we have a fully reliable source in this of what exactly is happening. And I think that's challenging and difficult. But I do know we are going to get to the other side of this. And I really, truly hope that we're for the better for it in the end. And as some of us know, there were legal bills passed at the federal level, meaning there were new laws put into place on how to help U.S. citizens financially, in business, and otherwise. And on Friday, there was a milestone, which I believe was the third bill. There were like two other smaller ones, but the one on Friday was like a massive one. And a bill is just, it's a thing presented as a solution, and it's turned into law when the president signs it, basically. So if we look at the data right here, just really quickly, it looks like the checks, most of these will be direct deposit. It will be within 3 weeks. So if you qualify for this assistance that the government's doing, it looks like the direct deposit will go in around 3 weeks. And this is a rumor that I heard. I cannot validate it for myself because I did not receive this. But apparently there are checks being mailed out and arriving in mailboxes that appear to be from the federal government, and phone calls that are going out appearing to be the federal government and asking and requesting more information, calling a number, giving data and information. So just be very alert and do your research or homework if you receive a check or a call, because I do know in the application processes and the data, there are phone number entry areas, particularly in the business-related assistance as part of this. Also important to understand, so basically, they're direct cash payments up to $1,200 for individuals and $2,400 for couples. So my wife and I are assuming to receive a certain amount, just as any other couple should, based on tax return of the 2019 if it's already been filed, or the 2018 if the 2019 hasn't been filed yet. But I do know if you make over $75,000, as it says here, basically you start getting less and less. And then if you make over $99,000, from what I understand right here, and I read this earlier, that there is no benefit to you. You're not going to receive a check or any money from this bailout. I do know this document is massive. It's got all kinds of things in it. But this part that I just went over is the basic part that affects just the regular working family that's not considered on the $99,000 income as an individual or above. And they fit within that threshold, that $75,000 to $99,000 range. And then the more you make over $75,000, the more is taken out of that potential amount that you would receive. So they have a mathematical way of doing this. Don't ask me how they did it or why they did it this way. All I can say is, for those of you who qualify, I think you can expect money within 3 weeks. And here's an interesting map that was put up and, shows the number of cases and the deaths. And then obviously, these spots that have more are where the virus is more widespread. And as we can see up here in the New York area, it's just over accelerated the amount that's going on up here. But Washington and California, have their problem with this. Of course, you can see them scatter all over the place, but these would be considered more hot spots on this side. And then we have Florida down here, and then Texas and over here, so we've got different situations. And even right here, this is rough, up in the air. I think what we all want is just for this to go away. We want everyone to recover. We want a minimal amount of people getting this. And we want to be back to life as we knew it, or as best as we can. Back to our normal day-to-day production, back to our normal family activities, back to our normal, business, self-enhancement, whatever it is that we do, volunteer, etc. Getting back into our normal life routine. So I want that, and I know that everyone that I know just wants that and wants to get moving forward again. So, and then we have the President of Belarus, which, by the way, he kind of brings some light to the end of this tunnel in a way and gave me a chuckle. I just love this. Believes vodka and saunas will cure coronavirus. And he's also a hockey player, which is pretty awesome. So he's playing hockey during all of this and talking, basically saying vodka will cure everything and saunas, and just don't drink at work. Don't get me wrong, I love saunas. They are very therapeutic in many ways. I really like them. And I do appreciate vodka as well. I just really hope that he is right. Because in a way, I think if he was right about this, but at the same time, I don't understand that there's any active cases where they are, or it's a threat in their location. So he might not be concerned really for that reason. I just love what this guy says. Look at this. When you come out of the sauna, not only wash your hands, but also your insides with 100 milliliters of vodka. Apparently, that's what they're talking about. So, and he's also saying hard work will cure the deadly pandemic. Well, I'll be the first to say that I've lived a very productive life. I've, produced a lot, been working a lot in my life. And I can say that very hard work and well done products are, an uplifting thing. And that's something I personally believe. And then you got to love this. You just have to work, especially now, in a village. Tractors will cure everyone. The field heals everyone, he said. If you can't appreciate that in some way, I'm sorry, but I just like what he says. I think it makes a positive impression on all this, and it makes you feel like, there are other things that we can do to get through this. And again, for me, it all leads back to the constant chaoticness and confusion that's created with all of the data all over the place. And sometimes my personal common sense of everything that I can understand tells me it's terrible what's happening to the people that are vulnerable to this. And of course, I wish none of that on any of them. And I would hate to know that anyone was negatively affected, fatally by this because proper precautions weren't taken. I think we can all agree on that. But at the same time, statements like this from the Belarus president, they just lighten things up. And you can't help but like the guy for being so upfront about what he thinks. And the memes, they just don't end. I mean, look at this. Coronavirus cripples cruise industry. 7-day cruise, $40 per person? Like, hey, that's not bad. And of course, what would we be without Chuck Norris? And COVID-19 is researching a cure for Chuck Norris. And Chuck Norris built the hospital he was born in. Of course, the toughest man alive, we all know this. Well, I hope this video was somewhat informative in some way and you learned something from it. I hope I didn't add to the chaos and confusion that's out there. But right now, I think the best thing is we're just going day by day, staying as busy as we can until we can just get to the other side of this thing. So my best to you. Until next time, thanks for watching.